Let's discuss the likelihood that this time is going to be different in crypto. If it is, then in a good way or a bad way. And if it isn't, then that's a good thing for the bulls, right? So let's take a look. Welcome to the Fomo Factory. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the bell notification on. Let's get into it. Now, all in all, when I talk about this time being different, I mean the big picture, right? The full cycle, not the small moves within the cycle. That's of course always different, right? So there were already, for example, people saying like, yeah, Bitcoin made a new all-time high before the halving, and that never happened before. Exactly. That was different. That specific move, right? That never happened before. But I mean the complete cycle, right? And not a small, wick before the halving, which kind of gave a double top and then going down again. That doesn't define a full cycle to me, right? So let's take a look at the full cycle. Now, so far, what is the full cycle? The full cycle has more to do than with just crypto, right? It's the complete business cycle, the liquidity cycle. However, how it reflects crypto, it's very simple actually. In the last cycles, last three cycles that we had so far, Bitcoin is showing very simply how it follows a 4-year cycle. There's a top at the end of 2013. 4 years later, exactly, we have the top of that cycle. 4 years later, again, exactly, we have the top of that cycle. And when I say exactly, I mean just end of 2000, end of the post-halving year in this case, right? Whether it happened in November, December, January. Look, it's a 4-year cycle. It's 48 months. If something is different by even 5 months, I cannot even call it like, that different. And you'll also see, right, we have the bottom every single 4 years as well, right? So if you believe like, hey, so far, like there's no proof yet, at least, right? But we can take a look at certain other things. But when you just look at Bitcoin, the only way to say that this time is going to be different is going to be far after, the end of 2025, because then we really know if it topped out, and if yes, when, right? We don't know that yet, right? So if you are sticking to the 4-year cycle, yeah, we at least have more than half a year of bull market to go. And that's also usually the most explosive year, right? Like if you, or part of the year, if you look at the second part of 2017, which started here, this was a huge lag for Bitcoin right here. And in 2013, it wasn't really that different. Actually, that started right here, right? There was that second lag as well. 2021, we started right here, right? So we first had a big dip and then we had that second leg. So that's not completely different, actually. For the altcoin market, it's even more explosive in the second half of the post-halving year, because that's so far also always where we finally have the well-known alt season as we know it, right? So alt season is purely when altcoins outperform Bitcoin. So Bitcoin can go up, but altcoins were going up harder, right? Therefore, you see that for the altcoin market, that second leg looks more like a higher high than Bitcoin. Bitcoin was also a higher high, but it looked more like a double top, right? We had a pretty explosive second part of 2021, and in 2017, it was like completely crazy what happened to the altcoin market. Right. So far, if you are, betting on the fact like, hey, doesn't look different to me, then I would be saying be bullish and be bullish on altcoins. Now, what is the reason though that people might feel like this time is different? The biggest reason I noticed, at least from people first, was that they were saying like, we had a Bitcoin all-time high before the halving, it's over, the top is in. Well, that wiped off the table, right? A couple months ago, Bitcoin said like, we don't care, right? And you have to also realize, man, sentiment. If people feel like this time is different, this time is different, then it's probably not, right? Because if they are betting on it, there are not a lot of people in crypto right now. The people that are in crypto right now are often pretty bearish when things are low, right? And over optimistic when things are high. So these might not really be the people you want to listen to. Also, here people said like, top is in, and here it was like, you'll see. And then the 4-year cycle came and be like, no, here you go. End of 2021. Let's finish the cycle. Now we can go into a bear market. And yeah, in all honesty, guys, it would not surprise me if it just turns out to be that again, right? That everybody first has to believe that this time is different, and that then eventually the cycle turns out to be the same. Been saying that it's the same forever, and I saw again a lot of comments like, "Well, it's different because." So far, yeah, didn't really work out for thinking that this time was different. Another reason, though, that people say that this time is different is because we haven't had an alt season yet, right? Alt season is in the post halving year what's so far always the case, right? And to very simply show it to you, if you look at the Bitcoin dominance going down is overall alt season. It could also mean that all Bitcoin money is flowing into stables, but overall that's an alt season. And the Bitcoin dominance going up is Bitcoin season, right? Now, you might feel like, well, this Bitcoin season is taking really long, right? I don't know, man. I mean, if you look at this right here, when Bitcoin season started until alt season really started, look how long this lasted, right? This is not that different. In fact, if you take a date range and you put it from that date until that date, and you move until where we are right now, you can see that you know it's not really that different. You can start from here, right? But this is, in my opinion, not really where it ended, because we also have an accumulation phase right here. But even if, then it's like the difference is not, that huge. And that's compared to 2021. And 2021 was actually pretty good for altcoins, because 2021 started and it kicked off with alt season from day one, basically. Right? Really from day one, actually. While in fact, if you look at 2017, depends a little how you look at it. But overall, the moment where alt season really started for me, look, here we were in it was just Bitcoin, altcoin, nothing spectacular, right? And here it was a full Bitcoin season all over again, like a drastic drop in the altcoin market. Altcoins restored a little bit, and then it dropped again, right? And it ended up at the same point as where it was for like 3 years, basically, right? But here it started to break out and make new highs. Now, when was this? Yeah, the move started in January 2017, but actually, if you look right here, like this is where that big breakout really happened, right? This was in March 2017. If we compare the 4-year cycle, March, it's now the beginning of May, that's 1-2 months difference. I feel like, oh, yeah, is it like that weird? So I don't know. I don't feel like that's that different so far. Um, what, by the way, might be a reason why it didn't happen yet. I think there are two reasons. One, Bitcoin is not high enough, right? I'm Dutch, so nobody's high enough for me. Like, but Bitcoin is not high enough, right? And we can take a look at all the charts, etc. But we should also think about, like, hey, what's the psychology of investors to start an alt season, right? And I do think that, at a certain point, Bitcoin is gonna rage to the upside that puts every single Bitcoin investor in a profit, right? And once they are in profits, they feel like, okay, what's the upside right here, right? How high can it go? Hey, I still, see altcoins that haven't ran yet. Let me put that money in Bitcoin. Bitcoin or in altcoins. Bitcoin, however, it did make new all-time highs here, right? But it's now it's not confirmative enough. It's not in that real price discovery. Bitcoin in this cycle is more a step by step mover, right? It goes up, it ranges, it goes up, it ranges, goes up, ranges, goes up, ranges, right? And that's for people probably that they feel like, okay, wait for a very long time. They have one explosive move and they make money. And then it ranges again, right? We haven't seen that true mooning yet from Bitcoin, right? And I think that that's one thing that has to do with it. If you overlay Altseason on this chart, others Bitcoin, right? If we overlay that, then here we go. Let me see if I can make it a little more clear than what the hell this is right now. All right, anyway. Right. Ah, man, it's decoupling from my chart. Okay, this is better. So the candles is Altseason and the purple line is Bitcoin, right? So if you look at the previous cycle, for example, you can see like when did Altseason really start? Well, it was kind of here, right? And why is that? Because this was after a lot of confirmation. Bitcoin struggled, right, to make a new all-time high. And once it finally did, people felt like, okay, in profit, let's go, right? Right, that altcoin wave right now. And you can see kind of the same in this cycle, right? We had that run up in Bitcoin, but it was just struggling, right? And people felt like, oh, whatever, fuck altcoins in that case. And whenever Bitcoin said like, okay, let's make new all-time highs, that's where we saw the altcoin market eventually had that spike, right? Now, that's by any means not an alt season, but it's at least a form of life to show like, hey, whenever Bitcoin does goes up, people are willing to put that money in the altcoin market. Now, another reason, and I think the biggest reason yet, is the Fed balance sheet. They have been reducing it so far. So, right, is that part different? Well, it's not that they or the balance sheet is being changed structurally every single 4 years, right? So the purple line is the Fed balance sheet, and you can just see that whenever we are in quantitative tightening, alt season kind of stops, right? Here, quantitative tightening starts and alt season just stops, right? So based on that, it's more like, okay, we just, need the QT to end. Now, the outlook is very positive. And if this video comes out today, the 6th of May, which I think though, then tomorrow we have a Fed meeting, right? Now, tomorrow could be a day where they say, hey, we're going to end QT. But it could also not happen, right? And I think one of the biggest reasons why this is selling off so hard is because investors expect them to stop QT every single meeting. If you look at this blog post from March, it said polymarket bettors say that there is 100% chance that the Fed ends QT before May. 100% chance. Well, that didn't happen, right? They didn't end it before May. So all these people kind of got completely disappointed, right? And that might be the reason why altcoins are still not breaking out yet. And now, is that does it have anything to do with the fact that it's not gonna happen? Look, it's very simple. Based on that, there's 100% chance, according to me, that it is going to happen. Because what do you think will happen if they keep on reducing the balance sheet forever? Will they let that go to zero? Of course not, right? So are we gonna get an alt season? I can guarantee you that 100%. Of course, right? But the question is, of course, when? And that has, again, everything to do with like, hey, is this time different or not? So we can say like, hey, this alt season so far, is it different? I mean, 2021 was different from 2017 as well. Like, again, everything is, of course, a little different from each other. And so far, it has been moved a little bit to the right. Whatever. Cool. Fine, right? So in that case, the only thing that it requires is a little bit more patience, but you also have more time to prepare. Like, the only concern as an investor that you could have is like, hey, it's never going to happen. Well, I think we know that it eventually is going to happen, right? So it doesn't really look that different to me. The global M2 is skyrocketing as well, and that's of course a very, very, very bullish sign. If you look at Bitcoin and we overlay the M2 money supply indicators right here, M2 money supply, global liquidity index, you can see that the macro is basically not standing in the way, right? The M2 has been going up, and you can just see that whenever the M2 goes up, Bitcoin follows, right? The M2 here is now in a huge leg up, and Bitcoin, as we all know, has a 12-week, give or take lag to that. And that's quite funny because this started to go up in January 2025, and Bitcoin started to go up in April. So that's pretty fucking funny if you ask me how accurate this still is, right? So that's like really, really, really hopeful. Now, again, we know that like with Bitcoin, we don't even have to worry if it will go up. Like, I think we all know that by now. The other thing that kind of can concern people is the fact that there are too many coins right now. Institutions are buying. Look, we were able to invest in an asset for 1.5 decades right now, right? Very cheap. And now we are complaining that institutions are pumping our bags. I don't like, how can we make that a bad thing? Right? Like, I don't really see how that's bad, right? Or ETFs. And I get it again that people say, like, well, no Altseason because the ETFs are not gonna put their Bitcoin into altcoins. And they might, right? But even if they don't, who cares? That's like 5-6% of the total Bitcoin supply, right? It's not that 5% of the whole supply is gonna completely stop the whole money flow within crypto, right? That's not the case. Plus, we now also have institutions, companies, countries, presidents buying actual altcoins, OTC, right? Like Ethereum. And OTC, as you know, maybe it doesn't increase the price. It goes from one wallet to another, not through an exchange. So what's going to happen at a certain point, this is speeding up a huge supply shock, basically, right? So that's a very uh, common sense narrative for me to look at an asset like an Ethereum and be like, yeah, it's not really getting bought off the open market right now. So it's not going up right now. But OTC, it does happen. So what is going to happen once that runs out? Yeah, that supply shock is going to be insane. Yeah, could that be the narrative for an alt season? That's good. Like that could definitely be the case. I mean, if Ethereum pumps, then the coins that are paired with Ethereum pump automatically with it, right? And then people see altcoins go up and they be like, oh, let's be in altcoins. And we know that retail only steps in whenever, altcoins are going up. Um, Also, if you look at the total crypto market valuation, we are now sitting below the fair value, right? Below the fair value. When do we rise above the fair value? Last cycle we started to break out there in like November 2020. So that was like half a year ago compared to this cycle, right? So it's different. Then again, if we look at 2017, we started to break above it in May 2017, like freaking literally where we are right now, basically. So again, that something has a couple months difference within a 4-year cycle doesn't mean that the cycle is different. And to be honest, if you would ask me right now, FOMO, do you think that this time is different? My best answer is I don't know, and nobody knows that. So if somebody says it is, he's like, no, he thinks it is, right? But nobody knows. If I have to guess, then so far, I would say no. Why? Because so far it is too soon to say. That's one. So that's just a pure gamble based on a couple things that always move a little different. Um, but two, also because it's a very dangerous thing to bet on, basically, right? I mean, I gave this example before, but if you look last cycle, I don't know if you were there, but the amount of people that said that this time is different in the last cycle was through the roof. If you look on Twitter, end of 2020, people were so freaking bearish on altcoins. The sentiment is exactly the same as now. Look it up. Things were tweeted like altcoins are dead, they are not coming back, it was all a scam, there will never be an alt season. That was at the end of 2022. Imagine being that person and then looking back at this alt season chart and look when this run started. Like the end of 2020. Did I say 2022? I said 2000. I mean 2020 at least. But that literally happened right there, slash beginning 2021. Right? The sentiment is now exactly the same. Betting on the fact that this time is different has never turned out to be a good strategy, right? But people always back at that time thought that they had a good reason for it. Just like a lot of people have right now. They feel like, yeah, but this is like, like, eh, I would like, maybe you will turn out to be right. Maybe. But so far, it's not really the best play, right? And there is such a chance and danger of missing out, right? So is it, in my opinion, different? No, not no. I don't think so. Could it turn out to be different this time? Look, it will turn out to be different at some point, right? Whether it's this cycle, the next one, the cycle after that, it won't go on like this forever, right? But the trend is your friend until the end of the trend. That's the famous saying, and that's not for no reason, right? So, again, to wrap it up, whatever your opinion is, if you think that this time is different, then you have to also think about, so what is going to be different? Is Bitcoin going to have, for some reason, a left translated cycle or a right translated cycle? Or is Bitcoin going to do the same? But are we never going to have an alt season, right? Whatever it is that you are thinking, then place your bets partly on that. And I say partly because you can be wrong, right? I am betting on the fact that we are getting a peak somewhat towards the end of this year, including a Fed alt season. Does it mean that I'm on altcoins? No, I could be wrong, right? The market it doesn't give a fuck about what we think, right? That's the thing. If you also feel like, yeah, nah, I mean, this is like, yeah, it's a patience tester, right? And in the meantime, I see a lot of people freaking out and panicking. But guess what? There is already no one in crypto right now, right? If you, again, look at the social metrics, the amount of YouTube viewers, subscribers, Twitter followers, etc., right? You can see the red line right there. Where is it? I mean, guys, it's at the bottom, right? It's at the bottom. If anything, this is by far the very best time ever to get in, right? Not to get out. If you are selling whenever there's nobody in crypto, then what are you doing, right? You sell here, you sell here. This is basically bear market territory, right? And the people that are here are mostly saying that it's different and that it's not going to work. Cool. So where's all that big selling and liquidity draining coming from if one, nobody's here, and two, the people that are here already sold, right? The only thing that could happen is all these people get into the market again and they buy. They're at this point only, not just because of the sentiment, but only by the amount of people in the market, as we can see right here, there are more buyers than sellers right now, right? Potential buyers. And these people will buy at some point. but they rather don't buy the bottom, right? They rather buy when it's already getting confirmed and high, and that's how we get our backspun. Like that's how it works, right? So um, yeah, no, I think that you should be a little careful with thinking that it is different. And to wrap it up, this is also one last thing that I think is pretty cool. Kate Up sent me this. Check this out real quick.
Hey, dude. Yeah, so I've been looking at this chart. It's a few things in one, right? So this here is the United States ISM manufacturing new orders, which let me go like this here. Okay, which represents the business cycle. Okay, so
To speed this up, you can see where that's sitting right now, right? That's pretty low. If you overlay Bitcoin, let me find the part where he overlays it. Where is Bitcoin sitting when this is really low, right? Nowhere near the highs. Nowhere near the highs, right? And that's not that weird. Especially, last thing though, to look at the altcoin market, right? What do you see? In the altcoin market, we have the peak of the bull market, right? End of 2021. Here we had the peak of the bull market, end of 2017. We go into the bear market, we find a bottom, right? We go into the bear market, we find a bottom. What do? We had it first run up. We had a first run up. We go down, and the amount of percentages, how similar that is, by the way, it's fucking crazy. Then it goes up again, right? Then it goes up again. Then it goes down. In this case, this was a black swan. It was COVID, right? And if you, especially if you look at the S&P, etc., how similar it looked to COVID, it's insane, right? So there we go down. And what happened after that? That's where the bull market actually started, right? This was a mid-cycle rally. We have things called mid-cycle rallies, right? This also here, it was a mid-cycle rally, but it was in the top of a bull market. And I predict, though, that the biggest danger in crypto is at this moment thinking that it is not going to happen and then completely miss out. If you are a bear right now, look, in the short term, you can be right about a lot of things, right? That's fine. But if you honestly think that we are not getting a bull market, with all the money that's in the market right now, with the macro that's looking how it's looking, with the M2, with the fact that QT got slowed down that much and is probably going to end somewhere halfway this year, with the fact that, you know, all these institutions and are putting so much money in not only Bitcoin, but like I said, also altcoins, OTC, and, you know, 10 more things that we can name. If you think that for some reason it has stopped out right now, I would just say be very, very, very careful because you are betting, gambling against every form of logic. Okay. So I want to leave it there. Conclusion, I don't think it's different in the big picture. And I think that the sentiment is getting that bored slash bad, that's the final confirmation that we need to get in. So thanks for watching. If you do like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the bell notification on, and I'll see you guys in the next one.